Well, welcome everybody to the Eat, Pray, Faith podcast with Dr. Tracey. That's me. And I'm so excited you're here because today we're going to talk all about back to school and what every parent needs to know. Today, we're going to keep towards more supplementation and lifestyle. I did talk about legalities on the other podcast that I did. And if you want to go back and listen to that, you can. Just to say that I have made some resources available for exemption forms for parents that do not want to vaccinate their kids to send them back to school. There are state laws that protect you from that. You do not have to do that in certain states. And there's only 3 states that actually require vaccines to go to school: California, Mississippi, and West Virginia. With that said, please know that you need to know the legalities of your state, whether you can file an exemption form, if you can sign that exemption form yourself as a parent, or you need a medical signature or a pastoral signature. There's different laws. So I'll provide the links for those in the show notes for you to be able to check out your exemption laws in your state, as well as what forms you can download. All right. So today we're going to talk about back to school and just getting ready as parents. I think one of the things that happens is, we send our kids back, their schedules are disrupted, our schedules are disrupted. Kids go back to school the first few weeks, they're sick, there's a lot of anxiety. And I feel for parents because I am a parent and I deal with all of these things. So I'm going to give you some simple things that you can start right now. As your child goes back to school within the first couple of weeks, we're going to start with some supplement recommendations, and then I'm going to get into some lifestyle recommendations, just simple things that you can do at home. All right. First, a multivitamin. Now, I'm going to provide you links in the show notes for all the products that I recommend. Guys, there's a million brands out there that have multivitamins. The biggest thing that you have to be concerned about when you choose a multivitamin is the right forms of the ingredients in the multi, the right amounts of what you're trying to get into your child, and nothing else. A lot of the multivitamins that are sold in big box stores and online have a ton of fillers in it. The most expensive part of a multivitamin are the B vitamins. So the B vitamins are where these product companies are going to skimp on. They're going to use synthetic types of products and raw ingredients that are not going to be the most beneficial for your kids. In some kids that have MTHFR mutation, which I'll talk about, folic acid can be a problem. The wrong form of B12 can be a problem. So getting the right forms is really important. Second, the right amounts. As I said before, the most expensive part is the B vitamins. And B vitamins are really essential for brain and cognition, for managing stress and neurotransmitter production. That's our brain communication pathways. Also, those B vitamins are essential in nourishing the adrenals, the creation of ATP, and a ton of other processes. So if multivitamins that you're giving your kid are the wrong forms and they don't have enough, they're really not going to serve the purpose. The third thing is the other fillers that they're going to put into the products. Again, I'm not going to get into all of the fillers. I'll do a podcast on label reading in the near future for parents. But just so you're aware, if there's red dyes, yellow dyes, fillers that are in there that are going to be neurologically inhibitory or excitatory, that's going to be a problem. So you're trying to do something good for your kids, such as a multivitamin, and lo and behold, you're giving them something that's loaded with fillers, red dyes, causing those neurotransmitters to either decrease in activation or increase too much, causing a lot of issues. So the right forms, the right amount, nothing else. I'll link some multis for you to take a look at. Fourth, it has to be a delivery system that your kid's actually going to use, right? So if your kid can't swallow capsules, that's going to be an issue if you're getting a multivitamin that's in a capsule form. Also, kids can get picky. 1 week they'll love the gummies that you got, and the next week they hate them and they'll never eat them again. So multiple delivery systems are important. One of the things that I do is try to get my multivitamin into my kids in different forms. Sometimes they're doing chewables, sometimes we're doing liquids, and sometimes we're doing capsules. Now, I've trained up my kids to swallow pills since they were little because Supplements are needed at times in your life. That's why they're called supplements. They are to supplement a healthy lifestyle. They're not a miracle magical pill. They're not going to act like a pharmaceutical. They're going to build deficiencies. And that is how it has to work. So I don't know how much of a deficiency your child has. To see remarkable change within the first week or so may not be something that you see. You might have to wait for a period of time because your child might have a lot of deficiencies. So with that said, we obviously know that our food supplies don't always supply everything that we need in the form of nutrients. We know that a lot of our plants and crops have been genetically modified. Our soils have been stripped out with nutrition. We're getting a lot of pesticides on our foods that are causing issues. So with all of that said, a good multivitamin is recommended. Get the right form, the right amount, no fillers, no added colors, dyes, sugars, and make sure that it's a delivery system that your child will and can take. You can't force them to swallow a pill if they don't know how, but a gummy or a liquid or a chewable might do. You can't make a child chew something that they don't want to. And if they can swallow capsules, that's great. Or if you can utilize a liquid, that's going to be easy for them to even put in a little bit of organic juice or water, that's fine. So a few of my favorites below. All right, second, one of the biggest things that drives me crazy are the hand sanitizers in school. Besides the fact, prior to COVID, that hand sanitizers were actually deemed as dangerous. And then all of a sudden, we get a magic virus that makes them safe. I really don't understand the flippity flop of our World Health Organization or the NIH. Make up your mind, y'all, because you need to stay on a track. Here's the easiest thing that you need to know about your microbiome. You have 10 times the amount of probiotics, good bacteria, in and on your body as you do cells that make you who you are. So for every cell in your body, you have 10 times the good bacteria protecting them. 10 times. Just think about that. So when we talk about probiotics, and we're going to get to probiotics because that's an important part of your everyday plan for school. But when we're talking about probiotics, right, we are talking about good bacteria that is going to fight for you, your immune system. It's going to fight for your skin health, your hair health, your neurotransmitter health, your hormone health. Probiotics are in every single part of your body. There's not a place that they don't touch. I always tell people the immune system goes everywhere and touches everything, and the body doesn't have a fence. So keep that in mind. When you use hand sanitizer, what it does is change the alkalinity of your hands from acidic to alkaline, thus creating an environment that is not opportunistic for good bacteria. Yes, it kills bacteria because what it does is alkaline the surface where bacteria can't survive. All bacteria, including your good bacteria. So although you've kind of killed the bad germ or bacteria that was on your hand, you've also destroyed your good bacteria that God has placed there to protect you. And so when we continue to do that all day long, when they come in from recess, when they come in from lunch, when they go to lunch, when they come in the first time in the classroom, they're hitting this hand sanitizer. Stop it. Teach your kids not to do it because it's not healthy. You want to go wash your hands. Go wash your hands in the bathroom like we used to, and then go to lunch if that makes you feel better. That's totally fine. But I can tell you we're too clean. We are way too over sanitized to the point that we're killing off our good bacteria because we're so afraid of the big bad germs. And we know that the terrain theory, keeping the body healthy, keeping the body nutrient dense, keeping the body toxin free, is more of an immune protocol than any injected thing or any sanitizing thing that you can put in your skin, on your skin. So just keep that in mind. The germ theory is dying, and it should, because it's not true. If we are all exposed to the same bacteria and germs, why doesn't everybody get sick equally? It is because of each individual person's body. Are they susceptible to that germ? Are their cells permissible to that germ? If you are nutrient dense and toxin free, you will be protected from almost everything. So just keep that in mind, sending your kids back to school, that we're going to build the terrain. We're not going to go in with a kill mentality, but a fill mentality. And that's a big thing I try to teach my practitioners that study under me. It's a big part of what I try to teach my clients, is that we have to stop with this kill mentality. And we have to go with a fill mentality. All we do is try to kill germs rather than fill God's given processes of innate and adaptive immune system already inside of you. If we just fill those pathways, fill potholes, build bridges, using nutrition, detoxifying our body, we don't have to go after the big bad germ all the time. We can know that we're building our armor, and that's what God has given us. So if you feel like your child needs some sort of hand sanitizer, use colloidal silver gel. Colloidal silver gel, not this terrible hand sanitizer that's loaded with chemicals that's destroying your probiotics on your body. Colloidal silver gel, or silver in general, is nature's antibiotic. It is ionized silver made with energy, basically, that ionizes the silver, that creates a polar activation, which means if you have a positively charged bacteria, allergen, whatever that looks like, the negatively charged ions in silver will bind with it and neutralize it. It's how it works. Silver is safe across the board. And so it comes in different forms. Silver that you ingest is silver solution. And all silver is colloidal silver. All silver. It doesn't matter if it's nano or structured or just colloidal without some special biochemical pathway that made it a smaller molecule. All silver is colloidal silver. It's made with electricity, and it ionizes the silver to become a negatively charged ion that'll bind with a positively charged ion, which is usually bacteria, viruses, mold, and fungus. So when you ingest it, that negative ion will go through your body, seek out, do what it needs to do, and then leave your body if it's structured. So there's colloidal silver. And then they did a little bit more science to it and made it a nanoparticle silver, which means the molecules are smaller and they can penetrate in smaller areas. And then they took it to a third option and made silver structured, which means they took that nano tiny molecule and bound it to a water molecule. So it still goes into your body and does all the cool things and great things that it can do for you, but it doesn't stay behind as a metal. So structured nano silver is my favorite. Again, I'll link that in the show notes. I like a company called Amio. It's my favorite one. I love all the other ones, and I'm not downing any other silver company. But if you're going to use something long-term, or if you know that you have MTHFR mutation, you should be using a structured nano silver. Okay. There's only two companies that I know, and Amio is one of them. So silver gel for the hands, silver gel for wounds, silver gel for so many things. If you need to take it orally, you're going to take a silver solution. That's a liquid. And you can take that preventatively. You can take that for gut health issues. You can take that when you see symptoms coming on of a cold or some sort of sickness. You can pour it on wounds. You can put it in your eyes. You can put it in your ears. You can put it up your nose as a nasal spray. So if you know you have sinus issues, you can use colloidal silver nasal spray. Again, I'm going to link that in the show notes. All of this is also available in my book, The Mommy Apothecary, where I teach you about products, how to source products, how to look at labels, what to look for. I also have put in about 30 protocols in there or more now. So it's 50 products, including what's in your kitchen that you can make medicine out of. So I just want to point that out as we go back to school, that guide is available in digital and in hard copy. And just for this month, if you buy the hard copy, you get the digital for free. So you have me in your pocket anytime to figure out, what should I buy? What am I looking for? How do I use it? Okay. The other thing that all parents should have on hand is some sort of comprehensive immune formula. So a lot of people have isolate vitamin D, C, zinc, and I think that's great. I really think that you should build your supplement apothecary like you build your medicine cabinet, right? I'm sure people that are listening here grew up in a household, whether you do it now or not, no judgment. I'm just saying, I grew up in a household where we had aspirin and ibuprofen, and we had Pepto-Bismol and fever reducers and all the other things, right? Pain medicines. antiseptics. Gosh, my mom used to chase me around with methylate, if you guys remember that. So now in my house, what we have is more of a natural apothecary rather than a pharmaceutical based medicine cabinet. What we have in our apothecary is silver. We have binders in there. I always have essential oils. I always have homeopathy. I always have some sort of kitchen medicine made from garlic. There's always something like that. And I always have supplements, such as a comprehensive formula for immunity, which will have things in it like aribogalactans and elderberry, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. Think of your immune, but it's in a comprehensive formula. And I always have multiple delivery systems. I always have chewables. I always have liquids. I always have because I don't feel well. Sometimes it's easier. If you're on the stomach, you don't always choose something. So we have to think about as parents, what do we keep on hand that's actually going to work in a type of crisis? I always have homeopathy. One of the easiest things that you can do for your family is homeopathy. Again, this is all in my book. But when you're looking at immune formulas, I essentially have two on hand at all the time. Immunomax, which is a chewable and a capsule. I have immune tincture, which is a liquid. Doesn't taste delicious, but you can get it down in some organic juice. And you don't have to wolf these things down all at once all the time. If someone's sick and they're just sipping on something through the day that you've put an immune tincture into, beautiful. And then I always have Immune Boost, which is a comprehensive formula that has vitamin A, D, K, your immune boosting, right? And zinc. So I do have isolates such as vitamin C, zinc, D, elderberry. I do have those. I usually stack them on top. So if someone's getting sick in my house, they're going to get a probiotic. They're going to get a dose of colloidal silver. They're going to get a dose of Immune Boost. They're going to get a dose of Immunomax. And then anything else I want to stack on top. That's how I usually roll. And then topically, I'm going to be using essential oils. Now, if I go the homeopathy route, then I may not use peppermint essential oils because that's going to deactivate the homeopathy. That's just a little side note for you to remember. All right. Going back to school, we got the multivitamin. We know we got the silver. We got the immune formula. My next go-to is a probiotic. I explained before that probiotics are the baseline. They're the communicators. Pro meaning for, biotic meaning life. So when we're giving someone a probiotic, we want to make sure it's the right one. People get hooked on one probiotic, one strain. They get hooked on one company, which is fine for a period of time. But I want you to switch up your probiotics. Also, I really think that we need a good quality probiotic in a delivery form that kids will take, right? So if you have a little kid who can't swallow pills, you need a powder. And I do believe that probiotics should be refrigerated. These are bacteria. Now, if you've listened in the Academy of Abiding Wellness, which is my school where you can go to learn lots of cool things as a practitioner and a layperson, just to be healthier for your family, I did a whole series with Natasha Trenev on probiotics, and she is known as the mother of probiotics. She established the industry here in the United States. Her probiotics, ProTren, which again, I'll link in the show notes, are some of the best I've ever experienced and great for your kids. So simple things, I'll link in the show notes for you. There's also chewable Probzyme that I use from Nutritional Frontiers. I'll put that in my kids' lunch. It's a probiotic enzyme combination. Tastes great. Grape's the best. I'm just going to tell you, grape's the best. And my kids don't fight me on it. So I like that. Next, essential oils. I understand every company thinks their essential oils are the best, but here's what I'm going to say. From the interview that I did in my podcast, and you can go back and listen to it with Dr. Bill Hedgen, she has said numerous times that the grade of essential oils that we have here in the United States isn't the same as it is over in the European countries because there are different levels of medicinal. Her brand, Absolute Essentials, is so different from any other brand that I've ever used, and you don't need a lot. So I do use essential oils for my kids topically, always dilute. If you have sensitive skin, especially, but, for kids, I always dilute. There's no reason not to. It's not going to affect the absorption. A molecule is a molecule. The carrier oil just spreads it out so it doesn't really um, make the skin irritated. But limbic system wise, the way the essential oils work is on a part of the brain called the limbic system, which deals with emotions. And when we think about focus, anger, happiness, joy, sadness, anxiety, depression, that's all limbic system response. First, it can come from diet. So if you are sending your kid off to school with a bowl of cereal and it's loaded with red dyes and sugar, and you expect their attention and focus to be stellar that day, you're delusional. And I don't mean any disrespect by that, but if you load somebody up with sugar, then expect them to go someplace and sit for 8 hours, you're setting them up for failure. The best thing that you can do is start your child off with a good, wholesome breakfast that has protein, fat, and fiber. So some of the best things you can send your child off with is, eggs and bacon in the morning and some fruit. You could start their day off with some sort of good, wholesome yogurt, whether you do dairy or you do alternative yogurt with some nuts in there and maybe some organic gluten-free yogurt or a gluten-free granola in there, and even some fruit with that if you want it. But give them some protein to establish their blood sugar levels and keep them established, because it's the fluctuation of blood sugar, the amount of sugar, the amount of red dyes, and the amount of high allergen foods that we start our kids off with every single day. That creates this neurological issue that we're seeing today. And then we require these poor kids to sit for 8 hours and give them like 30 minutes of recess. And instead of actually looking at what we're starting these children out with, what kind of food we're putting into their body, what kind of nutrition base that they have, we medicate them. And it's a crime. And it starts at your fork. It starts at your spoon. So this year, if you want to do anything for your children, diffuse some essential oils for their limbic system response in the morning, or even at night to help them get a good night's sleep. And I'll go into that more. And start their day off with a good breakfast. That may be the only good meal they get that day. Because if they're getting school lunch, which is a whole other thing we're going to talk about, please start them off with a good breakfast. So essential oils, getting back to it, these help with immunity. They help with mood. They help with pain. They help with sleep. They're therapeutic. These work in the phytocannabinoid pathway, which is the same pathway that CBD works. They're known as terpenes. And so they are actually medicinal. I'm sorry that MLMs ruined them for everybody, and everybody thinks that an essential oil will cure everything. It doesn't. It doesn't cure anything. It helps your body find pathways to heal itself if you have enough nutrients, if you're toxin free enough for it to work. So the body does make a way. God has made a way inside our body, given all the right combination of things, but there's no one-off solutions. There's no one-off solutions. You can take a medication, but that's not curing anything. It's just repressing the symptom. There's no medication out there that cures anything. So I just want you to know that. So as parents, make sure you have essential oils on hand. Some of the ones that I always recommend are lavender, a comprehensive formula for vasodilation of the respiratory system, kind of like an essential oil like Vicks. Vicks is an essential oil, but something that would be equivalent to Vicks. We all know that. Moms used to put it on our feet, put it on our chest. You can do that with essential oils if you dilute them. Make sure you have a diffuser. You can turn that on at night. You can use some lavender. You can use a comprehensive sleep formula. If you go on my site and you look around for absolute essentials, you'll see they have lots of formulas on there that you can use. Also for skin, essential oils are great. There's lots of skin products on there. Silver is great for skin, especially the gel, especially for rashes, scrapes. So there's so many uses. Again, all in my book. I'm going to link my book. All right. Last, getting back on schedule as a mom and dad, getting the kids to bed on time takes a bit, right? So we always have the best intentions, like, oh, we're going to get them on a schedule 2 weeks out from school or a month. That never happens. That never happens. Doesn't happen in my house. If it happens in your house, you're amazing. I just want you to know you're amazing. Does not happen in my house. So normally about a week before school, we start talking about it. And then I usually just have conceded that my kids are going to get a really bad night's sleep on the first day of school, and I'm okay with it because the second night's sleep is going to be great. But I do have a few things that I do behind the scenes. One, I'll start diffusing essential oils through the house, which I've been doing for about the last week. Second, we start with getting better on consistency and nighttime routines, right? It's the best we can do is just get better every day. So first, that starts with the wind down routine. We want to make sure that, the kids are starting to settle around 8:30. If your kids are earlier, that's fine. Later, that's fine. I'm not saying what I do is what everybody should do. Just telling you what I do. So we're starting the wind down routine, trying to stop the phone usage. That blue light from the phone really is disruptive to the pineal gland, which is the gland that releases melatonin at the end of that neurotransmitter pathway. And so in that pathway is GABA and some other things. But my point is, when they're looking at blue light all the time, all day, and then they come home and at night they're looking at blue light, their body never follows this normal pattern where when the sun starts to go down and the darkness happens, the pineal gland gets activated to release melatonin. And melatonin is our sleepy hormone. Melatonin is also a rejuvenation hormone. Melatonin is also an anti-inflammatory hormone. So it's not just for sleep. It's vital for many, many things and normal hormonal and growth processes for your child. That's why sleep is so important. So if you have a bad sleeper, it might be advantageous for you to reach out to me or one of my practitioners on my team to figure out what that pattern is and why it's disrupted. Second, if your kid is, I must have my phone before bed. Listen, I'm not here to judge parents, okay? We all do the best we can. This is a hard world to navigate. We are the first generation dealing with phones. We really are. I didn't have a phone. My kid's 14. My other child is 10. It's like, when do you get them a phone? What's too young? What's too old? They're basically cut out of all communication because everything's on your phone. Even if they're on sports teams, they require these kids to have group text chats. Well, if your kid doesn't have a phone, they're in trouble, right? They can't be part of the group. So no judgment here, y'all. I'm going to try to give you some solutions. So with that said, have your kid wear blue light blockers at night. There's glasses on my store. I'll post that link in the store. But have them wear blue light blockers when they're looking at their phone at night. If you really can't get the phone out of their hand, okay? Best option, take the phone an hour before bed, 30 minutes before bed. Have that child read a book with them. Go read a Bible story. It's a great time to share the gospel. If that's not possible and they're watching their phone, have them wear blue light blockers, okay? No judgment. I'm just trying to give you some tips. If they have trouble sleeping, you can try magnesium. That is safe across the board for all children. Most kids are deficient in it anyway. Magnesium is in every brain neurotransmitter pathway, every single one. It is a nutrient required in every neurotransmitter pathway. So with that said, magnesium, good. You can also try other things like comprehensive formulas that have B6 or have L-theanine. Additionally, melatonin is always an option. And there's gummies melatonin now, there's liquid melatonin, there's capsules. I usually start children out 1 to 3 milligrams, and then it's not dangerous. I know people think it's dangerous. It's not. Melatonin is at the end of a neurotransmitter pathway that is a wind down pathway. If you're not getting there to make melatonin, there's a problem in the neurotransmitter pathway. That's usually a deficiency of B6, iron, or magnesium. So you can try those things as well. But if you're giving your child a multivitamin, you may see improved sleep because now you're improving B6, now you're improving magnesium, and now you're improving all the nutrients like iron that are in that neurotransmitter pathway. So when you have a multivitamin, it usually contains those things. That's why I'm doing a comprehensive thing for you right now. I'm not going after what you feel your child's problem is. I'm going after the whole person so that we can resolve things that were based in deficiency, and we can resolve things based in toxicity. Okay, so these are all supplement ideas. Again, I'm going to link them all. I'm going to make sure you have links to them. I want to talk about some lifestyle ideas. So maybe you're like, oh, I don't want to give my kids supplements. No problem. I understand. I have spent so much money on back to school supplies, and I do think that my taxes should pay for it. However, that doesn't happen. I don't know what they use my tax dollars for. Well, I have an idea. It's probably not things that I support either. But my point is, the teachers then have to turn around and pay for things out of pocket for your children, and they graciously do that. So I have no problem contributing and helping out. So we went school shopping. We get all the back to school stuff. Oh, and for my listeners who do homeschooling, that's awesome. I love it. I homeschooled for 2 years through COVID. It's not something that I can do right now. And I don't want my kid on a cyber program all day long. So again, I'm not judging any parents who do whatever they need to do for their family. We do the best we can, right? We have to be builders of each other rather than do it better than you with each other, right? So lifestyle changes. Number one, packing lunches versus buying. The never-ending battle of every parent who has a child in school. So first, packing lunches obviously is going to be a better option. You have more control as to what your child is eating. Financially, it's better. I don't know if your kids have bought school lunches or if they're on subsidized programs, which I think everybody should be at this point. But it is very expensive. So there are ways that you can, through your school apps, control what they buy, control how much they spend. Obviously, packing, better control over the types of food, financially better, as if buying. So if your kid has to buy or wants to buy, look at that menu and decide what days you're going to allow that. We negotiate in my house as well. I don't love school lunch. I hate it, but we negotiate. And so a lot of times what happens is, because they've been raised on whole food, what happens with my kids is they're like, I don't really want to eat that school lunch. And I think that happens with a lot of kids too. So at some point in school, it becomes cool to buy school lunch. And then at some point in school, it becomes not cool. I don't know. I can't keep up with what's cool and what's not. I'm totally not cool. All right. A water bottle. Your water bottle can be your best friend when you're sending your child to school. Number one, hydration is number one for the brain, next to good fats. So in the morning, you're sending your child out with a good protein, fat breakfast. You're giving them a stainless steel water bottle that doesn't have lead, right? So everyone calm down on the lead stuff. I don't recommend glass, only because they drop them. And I don't trust really any plastics. So I usually do stainless steel. I make sure it's from a good source, and I'll send my child in with that. With that said, hydration for the brain. It's going to help with neurotransmitter production. It's going to help with alertness, focus, hydration. Everything in your body floats through water, whether it's the nutrition you're taking in or the garbage you're trying to get out of your body. It all needs water to come in or get out. So hydration is key. Second, you can put things into that water. I usually put DMG in my kids' water, dimethylglycine. That is nature's methylator. It's very sweet. You barely taste it when it's in water, but it helps with ATP production. It helps with recovery. It helps with energy. It helps with detoxification. It's amazing. It's safe across the board. I love dimethylglycine, DMG. Darn mighty good, right? That's what I like to call it. And it comes in liquid or chewables. So I usually just put a squirt in my kids' water bottles. Plus, if they're lifting after school or they have athletics after school, it helps with recovery. You can also put silver in that water if you know something's going around the school and you want your kids' terrain to be amplified a bit. If your kids do like powdered supplements, which my kids do, you can put a scoop of things in there. Some of my favorites to put in my kids' water from time to time. GI Complete, which is a full spectrum gastrointestinal enhancer. all healthy cuts in the gut. So sometimes I'll hit them with that. I also like to put in things like rich in fat acids, DMT, creatine, if I know kids are not for school. And again, depends on the mood. I like to throw oranges in there sometimes if they want it, but sometimes I drink straight water. So there's for a few tips for you. All right, activity. This is really important to talk to your school about, to show up at your school board meetings, because they continue to cut activity for children and over medicate these kids. Listen, our bodies are meant to move. And just because we as adults don't love it as much anymore doesn't mean kids do. Kids love to move. So if we try to strap them to a seat 8 hours a day, that's not going to be good, not only for their physical body, but also for their brain health, because kinesthetic health actually creates brain health. That's why there's such thing as muscle memory, because your muscles stimulate your brain stimulates your muscles. Movement is important. So ask for extracurricular activities that involve activity at your school. Get involved with phys ed. Get your kids into sports or after school activities where you yourself as a family have a daily routine where you're walking together, you're outside together, you're touching nature together. And there's something to say about the periodic table of creation that God spoke into existence, that when he pulled Adam out of the clay, apparently we like dirt because we're made from it. So just keep that in mind. Movement is essential. And we do have an obesity crisis. Guys, kids are going to do what you do, not what you say. I think every mom here probably just nodded their head like, yep, I can see them. And I know we're blaming the husbands right now. We're like, he's acting just like my husband, right? I get it. But they act like us too. So be an example for your children. Get outside. I spent yesterday, my husband and I, outside with our two boys and a neighborhood friend playing basketball. Now, granted, my body is feeling that today. But you know what? That memory, that moment, that activity was just so nourishing for our whole family. So get out and do that. You don't have to do it every day, but do it with your children once in a while. You know, the virtual babysitter of iPads and phones, unfortunately, is where we went the last decade. And we need to get back to real socialization and community with our children as families. We don't always have to send them away for entertainment. We don't always have to send them with friends so that they have something to do. We can actually step in the gap and be their friend. And so I want parents to hear that, because I think it's really important that we start bringing back the family unit. Too often, these kids are left on their own to go figure things out or find something to do, and they're brushed off because we as parents are too busy. And guys, you will find time for what you've put first in your life. I always say, if you show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities, right? And I'm guilty. This is not a judgment. This is just me being honest with parents. As you move into the school year this year, think about the quality time you want to spend with your kids and make sure you schedule it. And I promise you, you'll do it. So, and then you have impromptu basketball games where you regret it the next day because my legs are super sore. All right, sleep. You know, have a scheduled wind down time, a scheduled bedtime, a scheduled bath time. You know, bedtime should be as much of a schedule as your work day and as their school day. It's important. You know, kids release growth hormone at night. It's when they develop their hormone pathways. It's when they grow. It's when they recover. It's when they develop their brain. It's when they detoxify their brain and empty out their lymphatic system and cleanse their body. So sleep is super, super important. And as we talked about earlier, about phones, about pineal gland, about melatonin release, if you need some things to help with that, especially in the beginning of school, to get them back on a pattern, that's okay. Do that. Blue light glasses, do that. You should send blue light glasses in with your kid to school to wear when they watch those computers all day long. They're disrupting their pineal gland. So get them a really cool pair of blue light blockers. Again, I'll link them on my store. You know, something's going to look cool. My friends will think, oh man, that's cool, right? So important. They also make great gifts for teachers. So if you're thinking about gifts for teachers, think about everything I talked about today. Put them together in a immune package. Send it in. Here you go. Since you're around all these kids that are snotting on you and spitting on you when they talk and touching you and licking their fingers, Trust me, teachers will be very thankful if you send them in something that's going to boost their health, essential oils to boost their mood, and then blue light blockers to protect their eyes from screens. They are as susceptible as your kids if they don't take care of their bodies. And you might be the first person that really opens up this pathway for them to be like, hey, there's a different way that you can do this above Clorox wipes, right? Okay. You can also send in silver spray. Comes in spray bottles, and your kids can spray their desks, spray their hands, wipe it off, and it sanitizes just as good as anything else without killing good bacteria. All right. Last thing is mental and emotional wellness. Obviously, we talked about some support products that help with that, right? So we can do magnesium, we can do B6, we can do things like GABA, we can do things like L-theanine, we can do things like melatonin for sleep. We can do things like essential oils, lavender, and calming oils for mental and emotional health. Keep in mind, the school year is always difficult for kids. Always. It doesn't matter if they're super excited to go or not. It's still a change. And they are little people, but they're not little adults. They don't always have the abstract thinking that we do to know that in the first 2 weeks it's going to be okay. After that, and everything's going to be okay. They are only in the moment. So be patient. Moms and dads, take your stuff that you need to get through the first 2 weeks, right? Anything they take, you should take because you're going to need it, mom and dad. You're going to need the immune protection. You're going to need the calming. You're going to need the bedtime routine because everything's going to shift. I get it. But have the daily conversations with your kids of what was good and what was hard today. Sit with them and just talk through it, give them strategies to deal with it, give them accolades when they deserve it. And if they trip up and it's not handled exactly how you would handle it, give them a little bit of grace. They are learning too. I always tell my 14-year-old, I've never been the mom of a 14-year-old before. I'm sorry that sometimes I mess up. And he's never been 14. So, my 10-year-old, lucky him, second time around, right? But it's that first kid that grows up with you. And so there's a lot of grace that has to happen between us. So if you're a parent and you are dreading the school year, you're dreading the struggle, just know that you're not alone and that it's not an isolated situation for you to feel that way. There's many parents out there that do it. Also know that there are things that you can do in your house, like diffusing essential oils and taking some magnesium and making sure everyone's on a multi so that they're not deficient. Because when you're deficient in something, you don't feel good, right? Making sure that you have conversations every day, you're spending time every day, you're moving your body every day, you're going to bed at a good time. All of these things will make such a tremendous difference on your school year. And if you start it now, at the beginning, and you make it a habit, it takes 3 weeks for a habit to form. By the end of this month, you are going to establish a better plan this year than you did all the years prior. And sometimes you can just do one thing at a time, right? So I gave you a lot of suggestions today. You might have nailed all of them. You'd be like, nailed it. Good. Awesome. Help somebody else out. Tell somebody else what your tricks are. Share them with people because it takes a village, guys. We're all in this together. So I hope this helped you and blessed you back to school with your kiddos. I hope that they have a beautiful school year, as well as you, as mom and dad, guardian, grandma, grandpa, whoever you are, aunt, uncle. And thank you for, tuning in and trying as a parent to do the absolute best you can in this super, really confusing world. It's not easy being a parent today. I'm sure it wasn't 50 years ago, but today, I don't know, seems a little difficult. All right. Well, if this podcast blessed you, please share it with somebody else. And remember, everything's linked in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.